From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where you can read up on Bumblefoot, read up on the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Captain Shirk. Listen to the show live and soon much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Mighty Moose Beard Oil Company. It's 100% Canadian, 100% natural, taking care of beards around the world. Visit MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019 today. If you've never heard of Samantha Mowat before, you're in for a real treat. I can tell you firsthand that Samantha is the real deal when it comes to ET contact. In fact, with Samantha, just 25 minutes after meeting her back on April 15th, 2014, she proved to me that her contact is very real. We'll get into that story tonight. Samantha has been a contactee her entire life, and in the last year, some of her experiences have become, at times, traumatic. She had to pull away from the public eye to concentrate on figuring out why strange things were now happening to her. Her website is samanthamowat.ca. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. The lovely and talented Samantha Mowat, my good friend, and I'm even going to call you this, my mentor. How are you today?
I'm good, Dave. Thank you so much for that sweet introduction. It was really kind of you to say that. And I'm glad to be back. And thank you so much for giving me that text message a couple of weeks ago asking if I want to come on, because I feel like I'm ready once again to step back into things. I've started making YouTube videos again and getting back to emails. And I'm really grateful that you synchronistically lined up the way you did. So thank you.
Not a problem, not a problem. And you know, I've never really told you that, and maybe I should have. And all the times we have talked, and you and I have known each other for 6 years now. It was quite an interesting meeting, I will say that. And we'll get into that story a little bit. But you are such a mentor to me, and somebody who has helped me grow in this field, away from the radio show, just in regards to my own experiences and everything. And I want to say publicly thank you for doing that, because I don't think, outside of you and Pascal Lachance, my guru, that I would have been anywhere close to finding out how to figure out what was happening with me without you two. And I owe you a great debt of gratitude for that.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. But Pascal is a sweetheart. I really love the way that man does his healings and the way that he's even helped me. I like when he and I have done exchanges in the past. I find he's such a beautiful soul, and I can't say enough good things about that man. But thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Now, for our audience, it has grown substantially since you were last on the show about 6-7 months ago. Let's introduce you again, because you are somebody who literally, from the crib, has had ET contact. It's not a life you chose. It's a life that you have had to live. Tell us about it.
Well, that's not exactly accurate. In a sense, I did choose some of this because I do have soul contracts with many of the beings that I have had contact with throughout my incarnation. I am a clairvoyant psychic and a contactee, as well as an abductee, a MyLab, a hybrid mother. I am someone who, when my contact first started, a lot of it did start in a very standard way where I was in the womb, my mother would be abducted, and I would have genetic alteration done by the beings. And shortly after birth, many of the beings did come to me to make sure that my body was adjusting nicely to this environment, which unfortunately it was not. Shortly after I was born, I was very unhappy with everything. I was very mad at my twin brother for making the choice to assist me from craft rather than coming into a physical incarnation with me. He decided he would not be born with me, and he would assist me on an ETA level, which is fine. But I was a very angry newborn, and so my poor mother had to deal with me being colicky and screaming. And I was begging the beings that I work with to take me home. I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this. Like the state that many of us have been in before. And so I had this very beautiful Andromedan being come into the room that I was in because my mother had placed me on the bed on my back, and she had to leave the room to go cry because she was that frustrated with the situation of an angry little newborn. And this beautiful Andromedan being came into the room partially cloaked. So when I'm talking about something being cloaked, I'm making reference to the energy that is around the being in a harmonious vibration to the area around it. And so for many of these beings, they're able to alter the vibration of what is around them in their auric field to being in such harmony with the space around them that unless you are more tuned in or unless their thought pattern gets distracted, you may not necessarily see them. And so I saw this being coming up to me because it was focusing on me. It wanted for me to know that it was coming. I could sense its energy. I could feel it. And it walked up to me. It bent down over the bed where I was laying, and it placed a finger upon my chest. And it did start singing to me in an ancient or an ET dialect. Now, when I say singing, I don't mean singing in the sense that you and I would do it, where we're breathing in air into our lungs, we're having sounds come from our vocal cords and out of our mouth. This was more of a telepathic song coming into my mind from its mind. Because many of the ETs, when they are strongly connected to certain bloodlines, they will abduct a bloodline over the course of hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so they're more able to handle the telepathic communication in a clear and concise way and understand what the beings are trying to convey. And that's what this being did to me. It sang to me a song that my soul knows on a very, very familiar, very loving level, and it helped to calm me down. It also provided healing energy into my body to alleviate the pain I had in my lungs. My parents, being in the 80s, were both smokers, and so our home had a lot of cigarette smoke, which my little body was not happy about. And that's part of why that being came in to see me. And ever since then, whenever I get sick or if my kids get sick, they do come to see us, which I'm absolutely so grateful for because it has made my life a lot easier, and I can't imagine going through an incarnation without them. Where would you like for me to go about this, Dave? There's so much we could cover.
I love it when you put me on the spot like that. Where do you want to go now, man? Where do you want to go now? All right. Well, there is a lot that you have had to handle, a lot that you have had to comprehend. And when, we have a lot of people who come on the show, Samantha, who literally will say, I have met this many ETs, I have met or I've had these type of experiences. But for you, for a long time, and even so much so now, you're not part of the UFO community, right? Yeah. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. Personally, I think it's a good thing for you because there's a lot of politics involved with that. But you have had the strength to stay away from this and try and figure out things mainly on your own. Why have you chosen that direction rather than get involved full hand with the UFO community and the ET contact community?
I have a lot of respect for anybody within the UFO community, essentially by making the choice to go into ufology or the paranormal or even the psychic community. You are essentially making yourself the black sheep in society. You are going to be ostracized by people just for stepping forward to say, hey, look, I question the standard perception. But the reason why up until this point I've really stepped back and kind of stayed away from ufology in particular on a larger scale is because I really want to review all of my experiences. I want to analyze everything that I've gone through before I allowed for other people's opinions and energies to influence the way in which I perceive many of these beings, and in particular many of the encounters that I've had. For some people, when they look at the beings that I interact with, for instance, some of the reptilians, they will assume they're all demonic, that they're all mean, that they're all going to eat you, which isn't the case. Yes, some of them do eat humans. Yes, some of them do feed on louche. Yes, some of them do rape humans. But, we have even humans in our own race that do this. And so you have to really get a good idea of what your opinion is before you really get heavily involved in a subject. Otherwise, you could find that your opinion could easily be swayed or influenced by other people. And not to say that you have to be very strong and fast and very obsessed and not willing to change. I'm willing to change if information steps forward that shows me that I need to consider something in a new light. But I'm not willing to look at some of my positive experiences and see them in a very negative perception because other people who are famous in this industry or who have written a dozen books who've never had contact say, oh, well, that's bad. You're an idiot. Sorry if you're not allowed to swear. So that is part of the reason why I've stayed back, because I wanted to review my over 600 encounters that I have recorded up until this point and really have a clear, concise idea of what it is I felt. I really do like most of the people you meet in ufology. A lot of them are wonderful people. But the problem that I have with a lot of ufology is we have very few contactees stepping forward, very few abductees, and the majority of people in ufology seem to be researchers. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to a researcher, but you can only learn so much about the contact experience from observing it from other people's eyes. Unless you actually have contact, you have no idea what it's like. It's like trying to say, I know everything about swimming, but I've never been in the water. That's how I perceive it.
But how have you been able to turn it off? Because especially over the last 18 months, I know you and I have had private conversations, and there's been times where I've said, hey, have you heard about what's going on with this group or what's going on with that? And you're like, no, I haven't been paying attention. And I've literally kind of shrugged my shoulders like, what? Like, well, how are you missing this? But you have that strength to do that.
I do, but you have to remember, Dave, at this point I've met over 40 different species. And when you look at all the different beings that I have interacting with me, and then you add into it the occasional dead person, and then you add into it spirit guides, and then you add into everything else of dealing with clients and dealing with family, sometimes you just don't want to deal with the other beings that you don't know, because it's like, if I haven't met that group, great, stay out of my peripheral for now. I can only micromanage so much of what's going on in my life. And it's not a disrespectful thing. It's a being willing to have healthy boundaries. Even with some of the beings that I have coming to see me, like a few years ago, for instance, I think it was actually the year that you and I met, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. I was having a lot of physical contact coming into my house in Vancouver. And my kids had fallen asleep on the couch one night when my husband went out, and I was watching, I think it was Frozen or something ridiculous like that. And a light being came into my room, into our living room, pardon me. It came in through the side window. It came right in front of me, and when it passed my body, it had a very strong warm temperature. It had a loving and peaceful vibration, and it wanted to communicate with me on a very physical level, but I had so much going on with all my other contact. I said, no, I'm tired. I'm not in the mood for this. You need to go. We'll do this another time. And so the being went out just as quickly as it came in. And for people like me who have a lot of contact, you're not afraid to say that to these beings. Even a couple months ago in January, I had an Andromedan being project itself, literally come into the yard and say it wanted to come in to talk in the house. And I said, no, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I don't want to deal with you right now. And it respectfully took my request, and it left. And you have to really take things like that into consideration with contactees. If you have this much going on, you don't want to pay attention to what other people in ufology have going on. Not my energy. It's not my business. It's not that I don't care. It's just it's not relevant for me. So why would I invest my focus on that? Do you understand?
I understand, and it was kind of weird because as you started talking faster there, our connection was skipping a little bit. Your energy was like making the line skip. But I've never heard you this pumped up for a show. Your energy is fantastic tonight. Probably the best I've ever heard your energy on this show. So thank you. It's pretty amazing. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Samantha, as you have gone through your life with this contact, and you mentioned that you have seen a multitude of species, do you ever look back at things and just wonder why is this happening to you on a human level?
Not necessarily. I did a bit when I was younger, but I realized with many of the beings that I've talked to, they've mentioned that I have soul agreements. I've incarnated all over the universe as various types of beings, and because of that, that's part of the reason why I have some of the beings that do come see me as frequently as they do. It's if you take into account the reincarnation cycle, and for instance, let's say you incarnate as a mantis, a reptilian, a Pleiadian, and let's say you also encounter as a flower being, they're going to have more of an invested interest in seeing what one of their own is doing as it's incarnated into form. Even though these different groups have conflicting agendas, they will still have an interest in trying to help get their agenda and their soul agreements with you brought to the surface and really being the main priority for you. And so I look at all the types of beings that I am in contact with, and they've helped me come to realize that in part it is my soul being a family of some of these beings. It is because my soul has made very strong agreements to make psychic abilities normal, to make ET contact and multidimensional contact a very normal thing for humanity. Those are what I've agreed to do, and in doing so, allowing for humanity to interpret these beings in a way without misinterpreting them. So I understand why I have a huge diversity coming, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be a very good medium between the two, would I? I wouldn't be very good at being that translator for people to understand these beings and their energies if I did not get to meet with so many of them. It would be like being someone who works for the UN in a sense, who helps the different countries to be able to talk to each other. I have ETs asking me just as much about us and our lives as I have us asking about them and their lives. So it's a bit of a two-way street, and it's quite fascinating. I really enjoy it.
Samantha, a lot of people who are hearing you for the first time may listen to what you are saying and say, this young lady is off her rocker. She needs help. This is not real. No,
I don't.
Well, you know that, and I know that. But there's a lot of people out there who are skeptical.
And I totally get that, but here's the fun thing. I have a note from my doctor, who literally was the one who delivered my sister, who's known me since I was in diapers, saying that I am mentally stable, that I have no history of mental illness. I have told my family, hey, guys, if I ever show signs of being mentally unstable, please let me know. But they have contact too. My siblings have contact. My children have contact. My family has contact, going out to my cousins and parents. And you have to look at that going, how could we all have contact? Dave, you and I had contact the first time we met, and I've had that numerous friends now. If I was off my rocker, there wouldn't be other people to validate what it is I'm experiencing. My clients would not come to me and then have readings and find out about the beings they're in contact with and have confirmation about their own contact and the things they experience if I was crazy. So you have to really, and I don't like that word, by the way. It seems very rude, so I'm going to revoke using that word and say unstable. That feels more fitting. I get what these people are feeling skeptical. I love people being skeptical in the sense that a skeptical mind is a questioning mind. So, you, good job, that's awesome. But don't get so skeptical about people because it's your reality, your day-to-day understanding, that you close yourself off from being able to experience things that are beyond what you're currently experiencing. That is something I would want for the people of a lot of this to do. People are always skeptical of new energies and new understandings and new beliefs. We all used to think the world was flat. We all used to believe that washing our body would remove the purities of us, and that caused the plague and stuff like that. So, I mean, we have to look at new information as it is presented, question it, figure it out, see what works and what doesn't work, and see if it resonates with your body and with your understanding, and if it holds merit with time, and see if that information can be verified from other sources before we choose to dismiss it. Do you understand?
I absolutely understand. And you know, if I didn't see it firsthand, I don't know how I would react, because and we'll get into this at the bottom of the hour when we come back from break. But literally 25 minutes after meeting you, you went for a walk with me, and we ended up coming into contact with an extraterrestrial or two. And, you know, to this day, I look at the way that has affected me, and I can say this: it has brought an instant bond for my relationship with you as a very good friend, and the esteem that I hold in you, to be able to be comfortable to bring this on the air and tell the audience who's listening. You know, there's a lot of people out there that we've had on this show, who've been on other shows, who are on the circuit or whatever, that you can sit there and say, yeah, that person is full of crap. But when you experience it yourself with a person, such as I experienced it with you, I know 100 times out of 100, I'm vouching for you. I am totally doing that because I've had that feeling myself.
And I appreciate that. But one thing that I hold for myself is I do not lie. I may misspeak, but I make a very strong effort to make sure that I'm honest to the best of my abilities in all times. Because if you talk to a lot of these beings, they do not like interacting with humans who are dishonest. And so for those of you who want to have contact, I really hope that you make the choice not to lie in your life, not even lying about whether it was you who farted or the cat. That's a joke. Not a good joke, but still a joke. But the reason why I bring that up is if you actually talk to them and you start looking at what they value, they're able to read on an energetic level, on a telepathic level, and so they don't like it when they are lied to by humans, and they do not like humans who lie, because they are not going to go out and have contact with someone and then have that person twist their information or exaggerate information, because then they will disregard that human and move on to a different one. And that is one reason why a lot of people will start having contact, have it for a while, and get dropped. So those people need to be more aware of that. Do you understand?
Yes, as we have about a minute and 45 seconds before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Samantha Mowat is our guest. Samantha, for people who don't understand contact, on how it feels, how it can affect you emotionally, those who are yearning for an experience, but it never seems to happen, how do you get them to have that belief system that, I don't want to say that they can have contact, but that it may or may not be something that they want?
I agree with the may or may not be something that they want. Sometimes I will go through contact experiences, and we can go into this more after the break to break down the clarification of if you're having contact, and if so, what it's like when it's astral, what's like when it's physical, what it's like when it's psychic. We can do that right after the break. But what I find with all this, and you're going to have to repeat your question, I'm sorry, Dave, afterwards. If you're someone who isn't sure if you want contact, learn how to astral project. The reason I bring up astral projection is it's a safe modality where your soul leaves your body at night, your body's completely safe, your soul is completely safe, and you're able to encounter experiences with the different multidimensional beings in a safe capacity without it being fearful or really necessarily dangerous. Most of the time, astral projection is harmless, so there's really no need to be concerned in that dynamic, but you can meet many of these beings when your soul leaves your body at night. Many people who have contact assume their contact is physical, when in actuality a lot of it is in the astral dimension or the astral realm, depending how you want to say it. Because it is, a lot of these beings that we call extraterrestrial are actually extra-dimensional or multi-dimensional. They are simply able to shift the frequency of their bodies, their crafts, their vortexes to go from their dimensional plane to ours. And so it's not necessarily that their craft travels from the Pleiades system so much as it bends time and space and location and goes from one location very quickly to another. It's different than how most people actually interpret it. And so there's a lot of miscommunication and misleading.
Samantha, I'm going to get you to hold on here. I'm going to get you to hold on here. We're going to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight, ET Contact. And our first meeting coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you for tuning us in. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we've got a few features up there for you now. And you can read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, listen to the show live as well. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. To me, she is the best-kept secret in ufology. I don't know why, but if you could trust any voice in this field, Samantha is the one to trust. Her website, samanthamowat.ca, if you want to check it on out. Samantha, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Dave. I'm having a lot of fun.
Everybody is commenting on your energy tonight. Everybody is.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
So much so we actually had to change phone lines because I think it had to do with your energy. I really do.
I'm trying to tone it down.
It works perfect for me. Now, there's a lot of people who almost every night ask, Dave, what happened? How did you get into this? And I know you and I have talked about this story probably 6 or 7 times on this show in the last almost 5 years now, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. But I think it's, because our audience keeps on changing, I'm going to break this down here because you were actually coming up or on your way home to wherever you live, because I know where you live, but I like to keep that secret.
Thank you.
You were actually driving up to see me on Monday, and you want to film you and I talking about our experience. So we got to go back to April 15th, 2014. 5 days previous to that, we were at a friend's house, and they had about 10 acres of property. Their house, it was on a street that was only 2 houses. Their property was 10 acres. The neighbors was 6.5, and the properties were horseshoed by a forest. This was on a mountaintop. And 5 days previous to that, I had an encounter where a UFO had called me outside and was communicating with me via its lights from about 150 yards away. And then 5 days later, I happened to have the day off. I hadn't slept much in those 5 days because of that experience. And there is tea, a little tea party happening at this house. And I am told that there is going to be this young lady named Samantha there, who's an ET contactee, and that I am supposed to meet you. Mm-hmm. And we met at about 1:30 in the afternoon.
That's right. It's funny, Dave, because when I was driving down to our friend's house, and I was driving down that long road that you have to go onto in order to get to her street, it was really interesting because I kept feeling the vibration of craft being somewhere overhead. I kept looking at my window because it felt like it was alive and it was pulsing, and I thought nothing really of it. I would look for it and be like, okay, where are you? I don't see you guys. What's happening? And I just assumed it meant I'd be visited that night, because if you look at where our friend lived and you were to go into like a Google Map style looking overhead, she didn't live too far away from where my house was, just a little ways away. So I thought maybe they were just hanging out near my house and I was feeling the vibration of craft. But I remember when I first met you, I was super excited because our friend was mentioning the fact that you were pretty good at that time, just with where your energy was, at kind of calling craft or communicating with craft, getting them to turn their lights up, turn their lights down, stuff like that. So I was so excited to meet you that day.
It was very interesting. And I was kind of pacing around the house that afternoon. I was nervous because I wanted to go outside. And I wanted to walk back into the field where this craft had landed 5 days previous because I wanted to replay everything over and over in my head. And that's what I was doing. And you kind of picked up on that. And I remember you saying, do you mind if I come with you after hearing the story?
Yeah.
And I said, sure. And so we wandered into the back field and you picked out precisely where that craft was, where I was looking at it, just by the energy. And I was very impressed with that.
Well, you did say that you had a buzzing in your head, and I just assumed that was how you picked up on either energy from craft or ET energy, which I thought was really interesting. But when you look at how a lot of these ET craft work, and you look at the energetic signature coming off of them, when they come from either other locations or different dimensions, and they physically land in an area or they hover over an area for a period of time, whether it's 15 minutes or an hour or an evening, they tend to leave an energetic residue that you can feel. And quite often, it's almost like you go, do you remember how sometimes when you're walking and you'll go into a room and you get like a chill and you've never been there before and you just kind of feel like something intense has happened in that location before? It's just as clear and distinct as that, except the energy doesn't feel eerie or scary. It just feels like it's very, almost like electrical or an active vibration, like it's buzzing. It's really quite interesting. But the next thing, do you remember how you and I had the dogs with us at first? We had, I think there was 4 of them in total, and then the dogs ran off? Yeah.
Well, there's an interesting story by that, because I remember looking at you and you approached me very, very closely and you said, Dave, in a question, how would you like to go into the forest with me? And immediately I knew. And I remember saying, okay, what the F? And you're like, you do realize we're probably going to see something. And I remember sighing again and saying, yeah, I know. But then you made the interesting comment that you said, but I don't know if we actually will, because from what I know, ETs don't like dogs.
They don't.
And I found that interesting.
Funny. Well, I've asked them numerous times in case there's ever something really bad going on Earth. I'm like, take me, take my kids, take my cat, take my fish, take my dogs. They're like, we're not taking the dogs. I'm like, come on, take the dogs. They won't take the dogs. But we'll get into that later. Dave, do you remember how when you and I were walking, there's no way, just so your audience knows, he and I, we did not do any drugs. We did not have any alcohol. We aren't on any medication. We weren't doing anything that would alter our state of consciousness, no deep meditations. We were as clear and lucid as anyone would be on a standard weekday mid-afternoon, which I think that's a very important point to mention, because quite often when you hear about people's extraterrestrial experiences, many of them tend to be from people who are under the influence of one thing or another and seeing interdimensionally. And so I thought we should mention the fact that we were very sober and awake and yet still had this wonderful encounter. But please continue.
No, absolutely. So I remember you and I started walking towards the forest because there was a path there, and all 4 dogs, my 2 dogs and the 2 dogs on the farm, ran into the forest. And you and I crossed this gate into this wonderland where we literally had to go through this cathedral of trees that stood about 90, 100 feet high, of fir trees, gorgeous trees. And we walk in and you and I are just kind of talking. I cannot remember what that conversation was about, but I remember getting about 50 yards into the forest and you stopped me and you said, Dave, where are the dogs?
Because the energy went quiet. I don't remember really seeing much of a breeze. I don't remember really hearing any birds at that point. It was pretty quiet. And when you're in, what people don't tend to realize unless they go through contact is quite often when you're having ET contact, if you're about to go through an experience, often they will put up almost like this energetic bubble or barrier in the surrounding area where sounds cannot really come in and sounds cannot really go out. It's almost like a dome of energy goes over a certain perimeter. And so when the dogs are gone, for me, that was a little bit of a flag up going, wait a minute, contact's probably about to go on. What's happening here? Which I thought was very exciting. And do you remember how I tried to walk off towards the left, towards the ravine? Because I kept feeling like I wanted to be pulled that way. And if I did, I would have walked right into those beings. They would have been on my right a couple minutes later. But you were over back that way. And I think you called me at one point because you wanted to, I think we were talking, or It was interesting. You said we were in Sasquatch territory, and you didn't want me going that way because you were worried because I could see a Sasquatch if I kept going that way because I was going into their area.
Absolutely.
That's what it was.
And so after we kind of, did the typical thing of people when you're in an area where dogs just disappear, we keep going instead of turning back because that's what silly people do. We kept going for about another 50 yards into the forest, and then you stopped me again. And I will never forget these words. You said, Dave, I need you to look at me for a second. So I turned and I looked at you, and you were about 18 inches to 2 feet away. And you said, I don't want you to be afraid, but I want you to look that way, pointing due north, and tell me what you see. And I remember slowly taking a breath, turning, looking, and then saying, Samantha, what the heck is that? Samantha, what the heck is that? What the heck is that, Samantha? Samantha, what the heck is that? For about 5 minutes. And that's where the 10 to 12 foot being was staring back at us from about 200 feet away.
And you're right about that. But just while you're talking, sorry to be rude and interrupt, but my guide said that the breeze was gently swaying the trees. They said ever so gently. So they wanted me to correct that because they didn't like the fact that I was inaccurate. So I just wanted to state that part. But Dave, do you remember how I've started to walk forward towards these beings and you touched my arm and you're like, don't go. And you were so serious and your aura was wrapped around your body. And I remember thinking, but I want to go. I want to go see them. I want to go talk to them. And the beings expressed that they were fearful of the dogs, and they were actually a little bit fearful of you, which I thought was interesting, because they weren't really sure how your body was going to respond or how you would react if I walked up to one of these beings. They were worried that you'd try to either protect me and either hurt yourself or hurt one of them. And so they gave me the message of we would meet another time, which I was okay with. But I remember you really not wanting me to go, and I completely understand that. If it was new beings to me, I might not be comfortable if it's daytime and I'm with someone and I don't know how these beings would treat them. I would be apprehensive for them to go closer too.
Well, and that's pretty much it, because here I was staring at it, and then the one being who I didn't see, because I'm staring at the 10 to 12 foot guy, there's another being to his
right
left, our right, telepathically communicating with you, saying, don't worry, we're here to say hello. We're not here to harm you. We're not here to take you. And I remember you saying, because you were talking to me what they were saying, basically saying, however, we fear for the man's health. It was like they were
take a heart attack.
Yeah, I would hope not, but
it's not. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, they weren't trying to be disrespectful or emasculating. It's just a lot of people, if they're going through something completely beyond what their normal paradigm of understanding will allow for them to go through, this surge of adrenaline could cause you to have a heart attack. And I get where these beings are coming from. They were trying to have your best interest in heart, looking at where your timeline was going and your trajectory of going, hey, if we give him a heart attack, he's not going to want to have anything to do with us or being like us in the future. So they were trying to be very respectful. So I'm very grateful for them being that way.
Absolutely. And then you decided you wanted to go say hello. And that's where my panic button hit, because I was like, don't you leave me. Don't you leave me. I am not walking back to that house alone 25 minutes after meeting you, Samantha Mowat.
That's fair.
In the meantime, you're gone. So I was freaking out.
Well, on the bright side, it's a daytime encounter. If you could go back in time, I know you'd been like, let's go. Come on, drag me there. You would have been all over it.
Oh, now? Absolutely.
I'm trying to get you to go camping with us. That way you can have these beings come forward. It's pretty entertaining how often these beings will come in. Like, for instance, with my husband and I, we've done a fair bit of camping in our past, especially when we were forest firefighting. And I've had beings, some of my hybrid children, come into the tent where we've been sleeping a few different times and have these little hybrid beings come in and into the tent and kind of like crouch down and kind of hop over. It's really cute and come peer right close to me going, hey, Mom, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you sleeping in a tent? You live in a house. Because they're so perplexed by us and why we're going to go stay in a tent sometimes. Or even with our trailer, they do the same thing when we go camping in that. So it's really quite fascinating. I like it.
Yeah, and, it was one of those things where we were there for about 15, 20 minutes just staring at each other.
And we didn't hear any planes when this was going on, but the plane activity started after.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, how the planes came? Yeah.
Yeah, that was strange. Because the area where this happened, it's on a flight path, and there were no airplanes. No airplanes. No airplanes heading
quiet.
to Vancouver, nothing.
And that's part of why I make reference to that energetic bubble of protection to block out the external noise and to contain the internal. That's part of why I made reference to that point, because I was thinking about it the other day going, why is it that during some of my encounters I don't hear highway noise where I'm somewhere that's near the highway? How come I won't hear my neighbors or their dogs or stuff like that? And I started to realize that, they're putting up their own form of energetic protection or containment. And I understand it. It's not a disrespectful thing. But for some of these beings, it's just their way of knowing, I guess, when they're putting up the energetic perimeter to figure out where exactly some of these humans are or who's within a certain field. Almost like, those electric fences you can put up for dogs, yes, where you can tell if your dog is trying to leave the area. I don't mean to make us sound like the dog, but just so they can tell who's coming and going within a certain, space, which I think is quite cool.
Well, I also remember that we were, after about 15, 20 minutes, we were called to a different part of the forest because you were picking up energy that there were more ETs running around the forest.
That's right.
To our right, which would have been... And we didn't see any. We didn't.
No, but you could feel them. You could feel the very same vibration or energy that those two beings were emitting out of them. This calm, very loving, very intelligent, focused energy coming out of them. But you could feel it being in the trees, or not in the trees, but near the trees that were around us. And it was coming from several different points. Now, when I talk about beings being cloaked, I am making reference to them being partially invisible to our eyes, which is completely fine. But a lot of the beings who do that, it is done to get you accustomed to their vibrational frequency in such a manner that when you have them in your presence in the future, you are not reacting from a place of fear and panic. Your body naturally goes, okay, I recognize this energy, I recognize this vibration, and then if they slowly start to reveal themselves, like seeing a being out of the corner of your eye, or behind you for a moment in the mirror, or walking past your door, you're not as inclined to panic. And that's part of why they do it in that manner. They're very well thought out with this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny because I really didn't realize that pattern until 2 years ago when I had the ET conversation happening in my backyard and up my driveway of that clicking sound, that type sound in the middle of the night. And once again, I was called away to go to a different location. And then, of course, you come back and they're gone. I didn't realize that was that's part of their escape route, is to deflect you to a different area.
Well, you have to take that into consideration. They might not have been visiting you. They could have been visiting one of your neighbors. They could have been visiting one of your family members. They could have been visiting even that area to collect a sample of something. There's a lot of reasons why these beings could have been within that geographical region. And if the being doesn't necessarily have the ability to cloak itself, or if you would notice it and go into more of a survival type mode, then it is in their best interest to project energy in a certain other area to give the distraction over here, so you go over here to make their own escape. I understand their reasoning, but when you have that going on in the future, it might help for you to shift your energy in such a way and send it a telepathic message to whatever made the sound. And rather than broadcasting it out like a megaphone, think of your mind going to whatever is producing that sound's mind and just say to it, I'm interested in meeting you. Who is this? And they may not choose to step forward. They might choose to just give you an impression of an energy, or they may choose to just send you the impression of a color, like their aura, or even the impression of what it is they're doing or intending to do. That might be how they start to initiate contact with you. It's not always as strong as people think it is. They think of contact and they think, oh, a being's going to just walk into my room and it's going to abduct me. Well, that's not how it works 90% of the time. But I'd like to get into that aspect of it when we come back after this next break, because it's a very lengthy process to explain the different ways that abduction and contact occurs. Because ufology, and that's part of why I struggle with wanting to be involved with it, is they're very lights in the sky. They're very, a craft has to come down, land in the field, pick up a cow, pick up a person with a beam. And they're very stuck on that aspect rather than seeing the whole spectrum of ways that contact is occurring for humanity. And so a lot of people who are contactees don't even know they're contactees, including yourself for a long time, Dave.
Oh, sure. Throw that in my face now. I remember coming out of the forest and you stopping me. And it's funny because you don't recall this, and I do. And it's been a couple years. And I remember one of the last times we talked, you actually said, did I say anything to you afterwards? Because you didn't recall. But I totally recall you saying to me afterwards, as we stopped when we got back outside of the forest and the dogs came back and rejoined us. You said, you asked me point blank if I had been taken before. And I told you no. And then you said, well, you don't think so. But if you haven't, expect it to happen now. And it was just a few months later, around September 30th of 2014, when I woke up on the table after being taken. So you called that one too.
Yeah, but you have to remember, Dave, I'm able to better see a lot of the patterns that are going on with this, because that is what I've been obsessing over the last several years, is looking at my own encounters from childhood going up to now, and looking at what the patterns were before contact was occurring, where it was occurring, how it was occurring, what time of day, so on and so forth. And so when I was looking at the situation unfolding for you, it was very clear to me, with that being your first time being taken, and you reacting the way you did, and the beings reacting the way they did to you, that they were at least interested in you, because they didn't just come see me clairvoyantly, where I would see them, yet see them being partially see-through, and you looking in the same spot but seeing nothing. We were both able to see them quite strongly and physically. Yes, your image that you saw was slightly different than mine, but they're also willing to show themselves to me on more of a complete or natural level, because I've said to many of these beings, I would like to see what you genuinely look like. Don't put on a facade. I get really insulted when you show yourself to me as a human when you're not a human, or if you show yourself to me as a family member when you're not. Show me what you actually look like. And so that's part of why they're more comfortable showing me two tan Andromedan beings who are quite tall, whereas you saw something that was a little bit different. And that's totally fine. A lot of people, when they go through contact experiences, they have to really be open and honest about what it is they saw. And for two people, like if you and I have contact in the future together, I will tell you, you go that way, I'm going that way, talk to you in 5, get your voice recorder out, say everything.
Right there, Sam, I got to cut you off because we're going to break. Hour 2 with Samantha Mowat coming up right after this on Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com. Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hey fans, it's Dave Scott. Do I have something for you to check out? A great documentary about legendary Mexican investigative journalist Jaime Maussan and his search for the truth about UFOs. Beyond the Spectrum, Maussan's UFO files can be found on Amazon Prime. It's free to watch if you're a member. You might even hear me in it. So check out Beyond the Spectrum, only on Amazon Prime. The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacey, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. Hi to everyone listening in on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, down in Ridgecrest, California, KZFX 93.7 FM, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and in Reedsport, Oregon, we're on KDUN AM 1030. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Widdershins. Widdershins is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we got a few features up for you, including reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and listening to the show live. So make sure you check it on out. We bring in Samantha Mowat on Spaced Out Radio, her website, SamanthaMowat.ca. She is a lifelong ET contactee. And in this hour, we are going to get into encounter types, because it's not just meeting extraterrestrials face to face. It's really about how that contact happens. How are they coming to you? Is it mentally? Is it physically? Is it something else? Samantha, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Dave. Thank you. So there's a few things I really... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, hey, take the floor. You go right ahead.
I want to just give your throat a break, because I know you've got a cold, so I totally get that. But what I want for your listeners to really understand is when you're looking at the concept of contact with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals, it goes down the standard pattern that most people tend to actually understand. When we're thinking about contact, we often think of how it's displayed in the media, which would be always physical encounters. For instance, a physical encounter would best be described as having a physical UFO coming from the sky, coming either down over top of your house, And let's say, actually, let's skip the over top of your house for a moment. Let's say a UFO lands in the field. You're out on a hike with some friends. You guys have the beings come up to you physically, take you on board craft. That's one example of a physical encounter. Another way that these beings can physically come to get you is you could have what I had in 2014 quite often, which was waking up in the night and seeing a vortex of energy on the wall in your house. In my case, the vortexes that I saw were oval in shape. It was always the same kind of one, so I associate it with the same type of beings, Arcturians. And it was white and blue with a little bit of a gray energy. It looked quite smoky. It looked like the energy was moving very fluid, like very flowy, very fluid. It was quite beautiful. Another way that you can have physical encounters is you could have these beings having, for instance, in January of this year, I was laying in bed. I sensed craft coming above my house. And when you feel craft coming, it has a very distinct vibration depending upon the type of craft that it is. And in this case, this one felt like a pulsating type energy, very inconsistent as far as holding onto the vibration was concerned. And it went right over top of my home. And when I looked up at the ceiling, because I had been laying on my side, I noticed that there was a round hole in my ceiling. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I can see the night sky. And a moment later, I was slowly being raised up off my bed, going up through the air, out of my home, up into the craft. And that's another way that you could be physically abducted. I would not put that under psychic encounter or astral just because they're taking the physical form. And same with going through a vortex. They don't need to collect your soul by going through a vortex. That'd be a physical one. Another way that you can have physical abductions starting to come onto you or coming to your house, is earlier this year, I had, this is going to sound so ridiculous, but I had my kids in bed. I had both my dogs. One dog was on the bed. One dog was on the floor. The cat was on the bed. And as I'm laying in bed, I have the familiar sensation of craft, but this time it was over top of my carport, which is behind my bed, and down a level. And I could feel a different craft than I felt earlier that month. This craft didn't feel like the pulsing of the other one. It just felt like a very strong vibratory type feeling. And a moment later, I had this pink and this yellow orb coming in through the wall, and I'm looking straight ahead at my bedroom mirror that faces my bed. And I could see these two orbs coming down on like a 45-degree angle from the top section of the wall going down towards me and my dog. And of course, my puppy's panicking. And the reason I'm bringing this part up, Dave, is in one of the previous shows that you and I had, you had someone ask me about how do your pets react to this, and I wasn't paying attention at the time to how my dogs were reacting or how my cat was reacting. And so I really took note with this encounter because I looked at my German Shepherd, and she didn't really seem fazed at all with this happening. My puppy, he was panicking. He wasn't even one at the time, and he's barking his cute little head off, and his hair's up all over his body. He's looking up at the orbs and look at this going, okay, he sees these as clearly as I do. He's starting to get very anxious about this. The cat's laying down, but she's looking at the dog with a look of annoyance, like, oh my goodness, can you please stop barking? I was trying to sleep. And then my German Shepherd went, "Her." She's just mad and sighing at the puppy. And as these orbs come closer to my body to take me physically up onto craft, they start emitting a vibration that causes the peripheral section of my vision to start becoming hazy and going darker. And as I can feel it's happening to my body, I see my puppy go from being in a partially standing type position on the bed to slowly lowering his body lower and lower, and his barking becoming further and further apart. That is another way you can have physical encounters occurring, whereas another way that you can experience a physical encounter is having a being outside of your home and calling you out telepathically. So quite often when you have this, it's for people who are sleepwalkers. So for a lot of contactees, we are actually sleepwalkers by nature because we'll go through contact experiences, and these beings will put us in a partially catatonic state where you're in between levels of consciousness, aware enough to know what is near you so you don't fall down the stairs and break your neck, but not aware enough that you will either go to the bathroom or change your clothes or put on shoes if you're walking outside, but enough that you can actually walk down the stairs and out the front door type thing and walk out towards a being to meet them. So those are a few different ways that you can encounter these beings on a physical level. I'm sure there are more. These are just the ones off the top of my head. But when we look at the astral dynamic of this situation, the astral encounters are a little bit, one second, my guides reminded me of one more. My guides were saying the other way that you can often find this is beings coming into your home, and sometimes you'll have one, other times you'll have multiples, and they will come into the physical home, collect the physical body, and often move the person out onto craft, sometimes through the use of vortex technology or technology of taking them through walls and windows, other times walking them through physical things such as doors and what have you out onto craft, depending upon the situation and what it calls for. Thank you, guys. But getting back to the astral for a moment, when you go to bed at night, quite often, if you are not someone who is more conscious in the sense of knowing how to do things like astral project, lucid dream, remote view, things of that nature, then you're likely to just have run-of-the-mill dreams where you don't really have control of what's going on. Whereas when you're having astral encounters, quite often it is when your body lays down and it goes to sleep, but moments later your soul will actually step out of its connection to the body. The body will be completely safe. The soul is safe to travel on its own, but the soul will start going throughout its astral travel. It may go to different places on Earth to explore. It may go check up on friends, loved ones. It may decide to leave Earth and go check out different places in the universe, whether it's places in time and space, doesn't matter. And sometimes when you're doing that, these beings, if they are wanting to connect with you and they don't want to connect with the physical body for whatever reason, they will in a sense, I don't want to call it collecting your soul because it's not, that puts a scary connotation on it, but they will put like a bit of a call to your soul, and you'll find yourself, let's say, astral projecting, swimming in the water, like let's say somewhere really beautiful like Hawaii, and then a few moments later you'll find yourself in a room that will be fairly quite like lit, quite well lit, but without a source of light like a lamp or anything, and these beings will sometimes be disguising themselves as friends or family. Sometimes they'll be portraying themselves to you as teachers and spirit guides, and they'll be trying to interact with you through talking or teaching you or really giving medical examinations. Stuff like that can be done with the astral body as well as the physical body, because as you may be aware of, everything that happens in the energy body will start to occur in the physical body if it is left there for a long enough period of time. And so that's part of why if you're having astral encounters, you might find that you'll, for instance, a couple years ago, I felt craft over my house, and I thought nothing of it. I thought, go away, not in the mood for contact, leave me alone. And at the moment I closed my eyes, I literally had what appeared to be 3 people, but their faces weren't quite right directly in front of me, and they were trying to pull me somewhere. And I thought that this was really peculiar because these didn't look like normal Earth humans. They looked like their skin was too perfect, like something was just quite off about them. I knew based upon their energy that they were not portraying themselves clearly towards me. And this would be them trying to take me on a physical level. But if I didn't know about that, I would assume it was more astral. But anyways, just getting back to this for 1 second, when you're looking at these beings, often when you're going to sleep, you can have them take you a moment later if they're collecting the soul rather than the physical form, whereas a lot of encounters with the physical, they do tend to occur at night when things are quieter, when you're not necessarily going to be missed by your friends and family, when you're not going to have like 7 or 8 phone calls missed over an hour period because you were up on craft. And so whereas when they're taking on an astral level, you're supposed to wake up, they could look at you, you'll still be sleeping in bed, but they won't be aware that your soul is out having an encounter. Now, that's very different than, say, psychic encounters. Psychic encounters can happen in a number of ways. You can go into a very deep meditation, and while you're in a altered brainwave state, you can have these beings come to see you. They can start communicating with you telepathically, clairvoyantly. They may initially come near you on more of an energetic scale and slowly work their way to automatic writing encounters with you, things like that. Or, as many people actually experience, well, people that I've had come to me as clients at least, they will do things like drugs that alter their perception. And when you do things like these mind-altering drugs, it actually shifts your brainwave pattern in such a way. I'm not talking about necessarily acid, but I'm talking about more of the natural ones like
mushrooms, marijuana, ayahuasca, things like that, that alter the vibrational field of the person in such a way that they're able to shift their vibration to perceive other dimensions and other realities, because they're now operating at such a frequency that is at a more harmonious state to these other frequencies than with their standard vibrational field. And this allows for this person to have either a viewing of the multidimensionals or extraterrestrials. It can allow for them to see sometimes their craft, their physical bodies, their clothing, communication with them, which is quite interesting. Or you can go through what a lot of psychics go through, which is going throughout our day-to-day life and constantly catching glimpses of other dimensions, which can be the most annoying one of all, in my opinion. Because you could be putting away laundry and see a being on the other side of the bed, or you could be driving somewhere and have a being show up beside you. Can be kind of scary, almost cause a car accident or two, not important. Or you could be taking a shower and look out a window and be like, oh my goodness, there's a being. And it's not that they're being perverted or anything, it's just you're seeing the beings as they're observing you. So there's a lot of different ways that you are able to perceive them. And psychics are a little bit different than most people in the sense that if you look at how the psychic aspect works for people, psychics can be broken down to a few basic groups. You have clairvoyants, which are the seers, clairaudience, which are the hearers. They hear more of the telepathic information. The claircognizants get the download. So if you're someone who gets a lot of ringing in your ears or a sudden download of information, that could be more of the claircognizant. That could be how you're communicating with a lot of these beings. There's a lot of different modalities, and you have to realize where your strength lies and really comes from in order for you to really have a clear idea of your best form of communication with these beings. That's a lot of information. So
absolutely.
I hope that wasn't
absolutely.
too fast.
No, and, you know, there's a lot of information to try and get in there. So for people who are not used to this type of energy, this type of mental transformation to try and pick up these beings, a lot of times they will see little shadow figures out of the corner of their eyes. They will see little sparkling lights, and they knock it down to pareidolia. They knock it down to imagination. How do they know it's real comparatively to something that their mind is making up?
And that's a really hard one because you have to start looking at the patterns with these things that are going on. My recommendation for your audience is actually to create psychic development journals. If you're going through your day-to-day life, and if you have, like, let's say you see a shadowy being at the corner of your eye there for a moment and gone, try to take note of it. Like, okay, where were you standing? What were you doing? What were you thinking? How tall was this being? The same thing said with little sparkles of light, because you're going to notice that there are patterns in your mental behavior at the time when you're being more psychically perceptive. Chances are you were completing a mindless task. You were in a relaxed state. Most common when you see these beings, you will go through things like, how can I explain this? When you're looking at whether it is a flight of fancy, so to speak, so your imagination, it's probably going to be inconsistent with its size, shape, and its energy. Whereas when you're looking at keeping a record of the things that you're experiencing, you're able to look back and be like, hey, I've seen this shadowy being 5 or 6 times now. Every time I've seen it, it's between the hours of 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, after dinner, before I go to bed, and I'm normally relaxing that time. It tends to be occurring when I'm relaxing in my room reading a book, or when I'm doing laundry or whatever. And the reason why I bring up this part of really learning the pattern of what's going on is if it's your imagination, you're not going to have things going with it like an energetic vibration. So really pay attention to if you felt something. Did you feel a chill? Did you feel a warmth of energy? Did you feel a comforting presence coming near you? Did you feel afraid? Really pay attention to what your intuition is feeling. Because in order for you to really get a stronger grasp of about whether something is your intuition or your imagination, you do have to start becoming more observant in your day-to-day life in every moment, which does sound exhausting, but after a while it just becomes second nature. In the same way that when you meet a new person, you have an intuitive feeling right away about whether you like that person, trust that person, don't like them, or whatever. So the same energy can be applied towards these beings. If you notice that you're seeing sparks of light, and when you see them, you get that feeling of joy and excitement, and you just so happen to always see them by plants, then chances are you could be picking up on a higher vibrational energy like the fairies. Whereas if you're seeing sparks showing up and they're quite large, and let's say you're waking up in the night and on occasion you're seeing these blue orbs going through your house, and then you're falling back asleep a minute later, you could actually be seeing craft that's coming through in an energetic, almost like a small vessel. So you really have to look at the patterns coming into play to see if it is a pattern or not. That's your best way to determine.
I fully agree with you on that. We only got about 3.5 minutes left before we go to break at the bottom of the hour. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Samantha, a lot of people want contact. They want to experience something. How do they go about it? And what are the dangers that could go along with that as well?
So the quick version of all this is if you really want to have contact, there's a few things I recommend you doing. First of all, learn how to astral project. I recommend books like Astral Dynamics, because it will help you to learn how to safely get out of your body, how to recognize the different dimensional layers that you will go to, and how to psychically protect yourself, which is wonderful. The reason why I bring up the protection aspect is not all of these beings are nice. A lot of them are quite wonderful. Most are neutral within every group, whether it's the humanoids, the greys, the reptilians, the mantis, the light beings. Well, not necessarily the light beings, but most of the beings will have variations and varying degrees of whether the being cares for you, has a connection to you, or whether they're wanting to use and manipulate you. And so when I talk about you developing your psychic abilities and working hard to recognize the energies as they're coming towards you and acknowledging the things that you're seeing and trusting it and making the psychic development journal, it's teaching you to how to recognize when you see things that are beyond the normal and to really allow yourself to get into that mind frame of, okay, paranormal things are happening around all of us all the time. It's just a matter of, am I dismissing what I see, sense, and feel, or am I acknowledging it? And that's not saying you're allowing your imagination to take over, but you're allowing yourself to be more aware of the things that are happening. It is very dangerous, in a sense, if you go into this blind and if you go into this with a very false, optimistic sense. Because some of these beings, if you're someone who's abusing drugs, alcohol, medication, sex addiction, violent behaviors, or psychotic tendencies, I do not recommend trying to have contact with extraterrestrial multidimensional beings because you will put yourself into a very vulnerable state where you're likely to be hosted. Now, hosting is when a being connects onto your aura and very gradually over time increases your violent or root chakra tendencies or addictive tendencies in such a way that allows for it to feed off your energy and gain more control of your emotions, your thoughts, your lifestyle, and eventually who's around you. This can actually be very dangerous, increasing drug and alcohol addiction, pushing people who care for you out of the picture, and allowing for very disharmonious and dangerous relationships to take place. If you're doing this, you do run the possibility of being sexually assaulted by some of these beings because you have to be very careful and aware of what your vibrational frequency is at, because it will allow for certain beings who are looking for easy prey to come forward, which is another aspect that you need to be cautious of. So doing things like psychic protection can help keep some of them away, unless, of course, you do things like, if you're like me, where you have soul contracts with different black budget military groups, and you have soul contracts with the different ETs, then you will allow yourself to go through certain negative situations because they are things you have agreed to go through. And if you don't have a lot of those contracts in place, you will most likely be safer, but you're also not as likely to have a lot of the beings necessarily interacting with you unless you raise your vibration and your consciousness. Now, to keep your consciousness at the state it's at, you won't be able to raise it unless you do make big changes like trying to meditate, develop your psychic abilities, be more aware of your planet and the influence and the impact you're having upon it, animal rights, environmental rights, so on and so forth. But you're coming up on your time, so I was trying to cut.
Yes, we are. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to get into My Labs next. What's it like to experience the dark side of contact on Spaced Out Radio? Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Welcome to tonight's show. Reminder to all of you, if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a few features up for you. More coming along, according to the Gavinator. But right now, you can read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, listen to the show live. More coming soon. We want to give a shout-out to Gene in D.C. Hi, Gene in D.C., for tuning us in tonight. Give us a call sometime, will you, my friend? Love to hear from you. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Her website, samanthamowat.ca. In my opinion, she is one of the best-kept secrets in ufology. I'm proud to be able to call her a friend, as I have had alien experience with her. Samantha, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
One of the topics that you wanted to talk about tonight was MyLabs. This is a I don't even know how to explain it properly without bungling it up, but an alleged government group where they take people and put them through what they feel, the people that is, an ET type experience, but it's all brought to you from Earth. Tell us about it.
So a MyLab is someone who is a legitimate extraterrestrial multidimensional contactee who is also going through surveillance, harassment, and abduction from various government agencies. Now, when I talk about government agencies, I'm not talking about your typical government agencies. I'm talking about black budget operations. And so for many people who go through MyLab experiences, we call the government branch that tends to deal with us black ops or black operations or black budget operations. And part of what I want for your listeners to really understand about MyLabs is when these people are going through their abductions. For some people, it's being born to specific bloodlines, can have your MyLab experiences starting very young, as is the case of most of the super soldiers, which I don't necessarily like that term, by the way, but it seems to be the term that's thrown around the most. So people who are genetically modified and engineered to be very capable of handling high stress situations as far as the physical limitations of the body, both on planet and off planet, used for fighting things here on planet Earth as well as out in the solar system and universe, which may be something a lot of your listeners may not necessarily be aware of. But you may be wondering about the whole black budget operation abduction cycle and how it works. Well, in my case, I was born to a military family, and my family is contactees on both sides. And because of that aspect, when you look back at the history of my family, we've had contact for a very long time. But if I had made the choice to join the military, then I would be a fourth or fifth generation military family. I would be adding to it that much more. And if I had made the choice to go into it, I know I would have been roped into one of these projects in a greater capacity than I am. So if you're someone who's born to a military family, you are going to be monitored for certain aspects because some of these bloodlines are being tracked not only by the extraterrestrials, but they are being tracked by the human aspect due to the metaphysical capabilities that many of these contactees have. When you look at the extraterrestrial intervention with the humans in particular, that they have regular contact going on for multi-generations for hundreds or thousands of years, then you have to look at what their genetic upgrades are doing. They're upgrading a lot of these bloodlines to being more psychic, more telepathic, better able to experience communication with the plants, animals, the environment, read the energetic fields being emitted off of things, as well as viewing things like the aura, but also in regards to things like telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, which I know may seem completely out there to your audience, and I completely understand that, but just bear with me for a few minutes. I promise it'll get a little more understandable. So because these people are going through the experiences with the extraterrestrials, and because they are being, in a sense, if you go through a lot of physical contact, it's very easy when, let's say, a child, for instance, develops a lot of allergies, and their soul is new to the planet Earth, and they're having a hard time adjusting to the vibrational field that living on this planet gives. And so some of the ETs will come see their humans, in particular their young humans, quite often to not only give them school on craft, teaching them about their home worlds, physics, so on and so forth, but they will be helping to heal the body, rejuvenate the body, and to really bring it up to its maximum capability. And with the ETs coming and going on such a frequent physical level of multiple times a year, it's very easy for a lot of these black budget operations with their technology to be able to pick up on, hey, we keep seeing a craft in this area, and it's here for about 2 minutes, and we notice it's here somewhere between every 6 weeks to every 18 weeks. And out of these ones, we notice that we have these families here. Okay, let's keep pinning it down. Let's pay attention and really look for when that craft shows up again. And by doing stuff like that, they're able to start to monitor and almost like become aware of which people are having contact and which bloodlines. And there are other markers in place that can indicate contact. As we talked about earlier, ships can have a very strong energetic field coming off of them, which is why you'll see some of those very fast planes coming off or coming from bases and so on and so forth to go track the ETs and see where they go back to and what have you. So in a sense, that's where the partial monitoring by Black Ops comes in. And when they do figure out exactly what families are being contacted and what children, the Black Ops will often come re-abduct because the people who are being contacted by the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals. And when this is going on with the re-abduction, often they will, with children it's not as helpful to re-abduct them to gain information, but with adults it's a little easier for them to communicate with them. So, but with the children it's often more in a medical capacity, taking samples of their blood, putting them through Black Op training of psi abilities, and so on and so forth, modification, things of that nature. And when the Black Ops are aware of this contact and re-abducting the people, it's very common for information exchanges to be done in an altered state. So in my case, in a lot of my Black Op experiences, I will find myself in a room that is very minimally furnished. It's not like craft. I'll see those god-awful lights overhead that are quite bright. Oftentimes my eyes will be hurting. Often I'll feel like I'm in a slightly drugged state, as though they've given me something to eat or drink. And I'll feel as though it does feel like you're drugged is probably the best way I could describe it, although you'll find that you're speaking much more freely about things than you want to be. And this is done deliberately to attain more information from the contactee about why the extraterrestrials are taking them, which groups are taking them, what they did, what their craft looked like, what they were exposed to, what technology were you shown, what exactly were you doing, so on and so forth. Which, once they start to realize that you're having frequent encounters or encountering numerous different groups, in particular some of the groups that they are not working with, or groups that have access to higher technology, or who are showing you things that they as in the government, do not currently have the use of, or if they deem you to be useful, they will continue to re-abduct you. In my case, Black Ops learned about my hybridization, they learned about my school and craft, they learned about the various beings that I've worked with, as well as the orchestrated relationships that go along with the hybridization. So hybridization is the creation of multi-species children, or genetically modified children in a sense. And this is not the same way that we have GMO tomatoes and apples. I mean this more in the sense of taking the genes of an Earth human, or a contactee from a lineage, and continuing to modify that activating DNA with increasing levels of ET DNA to create hybrids that can live on planet as well as off of planet. And that's done for a whole number of reasons. And in order to do this, one thing that they have found with me, and one thing they have shared with me, is that my hybrids have had a better chance of success for not only developing from embryos into babies and then becoming healthy, thriving hybrids, was if I'm having a relationship of some kind or a loving exchange of energy with the people that I'm being bonded with or mating with. And this is not just my husband. This is talking about men that I've been abducted with from the time I was they were not men at the time. I should clarify that right now. These are men that were children when I was a child, and we would be abducted together quite frequently from the time we're very, very young, growing up together, going to school on craft, going through the hybridization and medical processes, and now going through the bonding and mating. And this relates back to the black budget operative aspect, because the black budget operative aspect will often put, for a lot of the women who have, and men as well, who have frequent contact experiences, they will program these people and make it so the relationships that they do have that are harmonious and healthy will actually disappear from these people's lives. They will make it so they are no longer feeling connected to their spouse through programming and through manipulation, and then they will implement what is known as handlers, or someone who's going to manipulate and control the contactee abductee, which is part of what I've been going through over the last couple of years and why I've really had to pull back from ufology, because I have ETs on one side being like, hey, we would like for you to have more hybrid children. We really like the vibration of these men. We're not necessarily as happy with the vibration of your husband, saying, we want you to be with one of these ones who's evolving as quickly as you are. Whereas I've got my black budget operatives, and I call them my just for clarification, trying to put in a handler in place to take me off of my course, helping to keep me distracted with married and pregnant and that aspect, focusing on family again rather than focusing on the enlightenment and evolution of humanity and our consciousness. And this relates back to a couple things that I've noticed as I've gone through my journals and I've gone through all my experiences, is I keep meeting the same black operation men in my abductions, and they've done numerous attempts to create romantic feelings on my end towards them, because they started to realize with the pairing that was going on with the ETs, what characteristics a lot of the ET men that, pardon me, I shouldn't call them ET men, ET contactee men that I was meeting up on craft, what they had, and they've been finding men who were similar. I know that seems a little bit odd, but are you still with me, or do you need further clarification about what we've talked about?
No, we're still with you here. In regards to that, how did you feel that you got chosen for this MyLab event? A lot of people may not know that it's even happening to them.
chances are, if you're a MyLab, you will probably have some indications going on in your life. In my case, I initially thought my MyLab experiences started around 2014, but the more I've gone back in my journals, going back towards my teenagehood, because I don't have my early childhood ones, but I do have my ones from like 15 onward, I did notice that I was actually having MyLab experiences throughout most of my life. And mine is because of the family that I was born into. I was born into a family that did have a bit of a nasty role in World War II. And because of that, you have to look at these operations. Can we, let me explain one thing first before we get into that part. For a lot of these people, the Black Ops people, they're very focused on bloodlines. And the bloodline aspect is important to them because it has to do with the ET genetics, in particular, the combination of certain ET genetics and the activation of them. So a lot of the MyLabs, when you look at them, they will have a high percentage of like O negatives in there or negative blood types, which is fine. But you'll also find a lot of them do have a high percentage of reptilian DNA, hence the reason they're so, not the people, but the Black Ops handlers are so focused on the control factor of this and why they keep trying to keep their bloodline very specifically, in a sense, inbred. It's disgusting. And I'm sorry for putting it that way, but in my opinion, that is what it is. And the reason why I know that my family was in this was my great-grandfather. He wasn't a very nice man. So please don't judge me. I don't agree with his perspective. I don't agree with his actions. But he was a Nazi and he was an SS officer, and then he became a spy in World War II. And with him doing that, he was not a good man. But being in the intelligence agency back then did put my family on that side of things, especially being contactees. So that made his lineage from that point onward, from everything that I've gathered, be more inclined to be in the black budget programs. And I don't like the fact that I made the choice to incarnate into this bloodline, but when I've asked my guides about why did I choose these people, why did I choose to go into this bloodline, they said I chose to come into it to help heal the bloodline and help to heal the anger and the karma within it. And so a lot of people that are in my labs who are incarnating into some of these really nasty bloodlines and situations, they have made the choice on a soul level to help heal and allow for them to move past the level of stuck or the inability to move past the programming that is in place. Because these MyLabs, many of them, their souls are not from here. They are starseeds. They are souls from other planets, other dimensions, who've made the choice to incarnate on planet Earth, be aware on a governmental level of which humans are being in contact, and to go through a lot of these really dangerous and nasty projects. A lot of the people that go through this, Dave, they have post-traumatic stress, myself included. That's part of the reason I pulled back so heavily from everything over the last 2 years, was I was having a lot of breakdowns. I was looking at everything I've encountered, seeing some of the things that I've done, not only in my MyLab situations, but on craft, and you kind of reach a point where you just need to step back from everything and have a good cry. And you'll find it happens a lot because it is easy to have PTSD when you find yourself, in some of these cases, not for me when it comes to this part, but fighting wars off planet and seeing other people die. Or you, in my case, I've been in a lot of negotiations where they're talking about harvesting and stuff like that. And you start looking at these things and seeing people being consumed when it comes to these encounters, and seeing ritualistic abuse going on. It weighs a really heavy toll on your soul, and it makes it very difficult for people who are going through these things to function normally. So a lot of them do cope with drugs and alcohol. If you're in my lab, you are going to have things like flashbacks. You're going to have a lot of dreams where you're going to be seeing the things that you've experienced. You'll have trigger, like for instance, when my family and I went to see the Star Wars movies and stuff like that, the new ones, during a few of the movies, just even the previews of the things that were going on in the previews for other shows, I went into panic attacks because it was triggering memories that were embedded in me that were on a subconscious level, things that hadn't come to the surface yet, that caused me to completely hyperventilate and have to walk out the movie theater and bawl my eyes out in the bathroom, and my husband would be like, "What's wrong? What's going on? Are you okay?" And for my labs, that is something that we go through. We have a lot of triggers. You'll notice for a lot of us, we'll have things like we either, how can I explain this? For me, some of my triggers are I cannot handle really small spaces. I cannot handle things when they're really dark. That's part of what really bugs me. That's too personal. Can't go into that one. Certain situations when it comes to other people being near me in certain positions or words really trigger me, and you have to be aware of that, because my labs, a lot of them, depending upon what they're in for, we go through levels of training. We'll go through, some will be alpha, beta, theta, delta training, depending upon what it is they're used for. If they're in assassin training or sex kitten training, it does relate heavily to the MK Ultra aspect, because it is quite overlapping, and a lot of people they see it all as being completely separate, and they think MK Ultra is only in Hollywood, when that's not the case. They have to start putting it all together and seeing how it's overlapping layers. And sorry, I'm trying not to cry when I'm talking to you about this, but you have to look at how much deeper this goes, especially when you have the manipulation of these beings coming into place. For me, certain, like black motorcycle helmets, when I see them, like when my husband and I are driving, I will sometimes just start having an anxiety attack, because seeing helmets in a certain style remind me of helmets that I've worn in some of my Black Ops training exercises and ones that I've seen. So there's stuff like that you have to look at and be very aware of, and that's why I go back to the Psychic Development Journal again. My guys are saying you're close to break. Am I needing to stop?
We got about 90 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. So you have to look at stuff like that and really be aware of it and write it down so you can realize what your triggers are, because you'll start having memory bleed through coming forward. And a memory bleed through is when you go through an event, in particular one where you have stress that you have pushed down and blocked out in your mind. So you may not even be aware that you're constantly having this degree of stress within you. And you'll start to have things that trigger that memory or remind you of it. And at first it may come across as irritation or snapping at people or feeling the need to leave a situation or to fall asleep or to have a drink or go for a smoke, those kind of things. And then you'll start to notice as it starts to bleed through more and more, you'll really start to not be able to handle it. For me, I go into hyperventilating and like just feeling completely disempowered, which isn't a nice state to be in, but it's very common with MyLabs when they've gone through a lot of MyLab situations, depending upon what it is their training exercises are and the uses that they have had in those situations. Ugh, sorry.
It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful, and it's stressful. It's traumatic. People who have gone through that would never wish it on anybody else having to go through that. You know, no. It's scary. And to be honest, this is the first time I believe I've heard you talk about your grandfather and his past in World War II. I mean, that is eerie, that is scary, and with that military connection, it makes sense. It makes sense because every MyLab person that I have talked to, there always is some sort of degree of, you know, military heritage in the family. Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I know if I ever leave my husband, my next husband will be of the military, whether I'm aware of it or not. And knowing my next one's likely to be a handler, do you think I would ever leave this relationship knowing I'm going to go to one of those now? No.
Heck no. And on that note, we're going to go to break at the top of the hour. Maybe we'll squeeze in some of your questions as well for Samantha Mowat. So if you're in one of the chat rooms, put them in capital letters. We will get to it. Spaced Out Radio is hour number 3 coming up next.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Hey fans, it's Dave Scott. Do I have something for you to check out? A great documentary about legendary Mexican investigative journalist Jaime Maussan and his search for the truth about UFOs. Beyond the Spectrum, Maussan's UFO files can be found on Amazon Prime. It's free to watch if you're a member. You might even hear me in it. So check out Beyond the Spectrum, only on Amazon Prime.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to all of you around the world, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I invite you to stick around spacedoutradio.com for Saturday and Sunday nights where I host Spaced Out Weekend. Let me take you on a wild ride of weird and strange topics, from ghosts and ETs to remote viewing, psychic phenomena, and so much more. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time on Spaced Out Weekend, where we own the night.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with you from the frozen Canadian tundra. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, down in Dangerfield, Texas, KDNF AM 1560, and KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. We are also digitally on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, don't forget to check our archives out. They are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Widdershins. Widdershins is your password. Nobody really knows what it means, but the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and you can listen to the show live as well. For the final time tonight, we introduce Samantha Mowat. Her website, samanthamowat.ca, if you want to check her on out. She is an experiencer, lifelong. She is the real deal, best kept secret of ufology, in my opinion, and a few others as well. Samantha, welcome back.
Hi, Dave. Dave, I was thinking about something that I just want to add before we end up going on to questions. You had a question for me beforehand, talk about how people could know if they're MyLabs, and I was thinking about it just while you and I had the break. And there's a few things I want to bring forward very quickly. For me, when my suppressed memories really started to come to light, I started to look at things that gave me anxiety in my life, and not just things that newly gave me anxiety, but things that gave me really bad anxiety throughout my entire incarnation. And one thing that really stood out to me was I would go to things like the dentist. And when I went to the dentist, it wasn't necessarily just the room that got me, but the needles would give me anxiety when I was a kid. Sitting in the medical chairs in particular, and you look up at those lights, it would give me really bad, almost like panic attacks. The other thing that I want to mention is there are certain things that you might find that you get like having really weird behavior after. For me, one of those things was Alice in Wonderland. It was a movie that I couldn't watch as a kid because there was something in it that always put me on edge and I couldn't really handle. When I found out just in the last couple of years from one of my MyLab experiences that I do have Alice in Wonderland programming in me, which was a really good indication that gave me a verification that I needed of, oh, that's why I couldn't handle that movie as a kid. It would really freak me out. Another thing that you may find if you're going through MyLab experiences is you may have a lot of dreams where you keep walking up to doors and not being able to pass through them or open them. And the same thing could be said about other things that are symbolic of locking memories away behind certain situations or certain objects. Because if you look at how MyLab situations go, almost all MyLabs will have their mind broken to one extent or another because they do go through some form of mind control quite often. And this isn't to say that we're crazy. It's a way of saying that we do get programmed to a much heavier degree than the general public. And so having the dreams reoccurring of seeing houses in particular, doors and walking up to them, but not being able to enter them is an indication of memories being locked away and not being able to access them at that time. And I thought that'd be relevant for your listeners to hear. But please continue.
All right, let's get to a question from Uncle Dale in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is asking, this is super ultra totally not part of the conscious reality. I feel like we need a training course in this stuff, or is it complete BS? Very freaky. How can a reasonable person learn about this subject in a reasonable way?
That's a really good question. And the best way a reasonable person could learn about this in a reasonable way is to explore not standard modalities of doing it. So where most people would go to their local chapters and bookstore and buy a book on it, you're not really going to find any current and up-to-date information about MKUltra or MyLabs or stuff like that, because they are things that are denied and not really wanting to be acknowledged to any real capacity. And so your best way to actually find information is through things like YouTube, through situations like this radio station where people are willing to step forward to share the experiences that they've had, and to use that internal intuition that tells you when something is real or accurate and whether something isn't. You do have to trust your intuition and feel whether things ring true to you or not, because there are aspects of it that are going to resonate and aspects of it that you're going to shy away from, and learning the difference between what you can handle hearing and what you can't versus what is accurate and what isn't. It is really coming down to finding sources on YouTube and also really starting to study this material. So when you look at this situation, when it comes to the MyLabs, the super soldiers, the orchestrated relationships, the contactees, look for the patterns within all things in life. If you want to discover the truth about things, look for the patterns. Look at how, when you're looking at contactees and all the people who claim to have had contact since ufology really stepped out of the woodwork, look at what they're saying. Look at how, which ones are saying this about physical contact? And you'll see that most contactees may not necessarily want to read the work of other contactees because they won't want to pollute their own. Others may research it, and that's totally fine. But you have to look at where those commonalities are to really understand it. That's the easiest way for you to really move forward if you're not having your own experiences.
But from a scientific level, they're like Uncle Dale is a scientist, and when he looks at things like this, it's very hard for somebody of his educational background to look at this and say this is really happening, because this is not something that has been overly admitted by any type of government agency.
No, but you do have to look at a few of the other governments that are going on around the world. Ones like Mexico, where they'll air on TV if there's UFO sightings. Places like France that have opened up and shared a lot of their documentation about their contact. They're not admitting it to the same extent that we're all hoping for disclosure, but it's all micro-disclosure starting to come forward. The Honourable Paul Hellyer of Canada, who was very brave and stepped forward talking about Canada having contact with, I believe, 4 different species. China makes reference to over 20 or 30. You have to start looking at the journalistic publications that are out there as well, where you have these people who are from, as you view, sir, credible sources. No, I do not have any degrees to my name. Whenever I've tried to go to university, I either get pregnant or I end up having a huge life situation because the beings I work with will not let me go to university. They say I don't need to be programmed, and they keep wondering why I insist on going or trying to go. And that is the easiest thing that I could really try to relay to you. I hope that doesn't come across as rude.
No, I don't think it does. I don't think it does either. And you know, with everything that you have gone through in life, the educational process that you have had from your own experiences is phenomenal. And it's probably things that you wouldn't wish on a lot of people out there.
No, I wouldn't. Some of them, I would love for you guys to see some of the wonderful things I've seen, like meeting the mushroom beings and the flower beings who are lovely, having a little extraterrestrial being play hide and go seek with you, having other ones come forward and sing to you, having different beings who are willing to, like some of the humanoid beings that I had coming to me in January of this year, who are also with Greys, who are also with some of the other types of bipedals, and they're coming to me saying, we love you, we really appreciate what you're trying to do, and we really need you to dedicate yourself further to this. Having that degree of love that you will get from some of these beings in physical as well as astral encounters is absolutely magnificent. And I would love for all of you to have the experience of going to school on craft and learning how to communicate with the plants and seeing these ridiculous guinea pig type animals that are willing to speak to you. I would love for you guys to have stuff like that. But in order for the general public to go through these things, the rest of you are going to have to raise your consciousness, because these beings aren't going to want to interact with you if they worry that you're not going to understand them when they're predominantly telepathic beings who speak through the use of energy and their minds. They do not speak through their voices as we do, and because of that, they worry that we will misinterpret what it is they're doing, and they don't want to cause harm to you or to cause harm to them. And that's why they focus so heavily on the evolution of consciousness. That is the safe factor for everyone involved.
Very understandable, very understandable. When it comes to the ET species that you have come in contact with, and there has been a multitude, does it come in ranges? So, for instance, when you are having good contact, are there certain species that come around at that time comparatively to when you were having negative contact?
Yes, unfortunately, there does seem to be a bit of a pattern when it comes to that with me. There are some beings, let's break it down into predominantly good, predominantly a mixture of good and bad, and then predominantly disharmonic. So for me, the beings that have almost always been good are under the classification of energy beings. So this is going to sound pretty out there, some of your listeners, but angelic beings, crystalline beings, beings that look like they're made of actual crystalline energy, elementals, fairies, light beings. Those are all very high vibrational beings who I've never had any negative interactions with. Now, they are of the highest vibration, so they have also, outside the angelic beings, not stepped in to give any strong degree of help either. They have been there for love and guidance. They're willing to help to educate. But when I'm going through periods of sickness or periods of danger, they are not generally the ones I call upon, because they're less likely to intervene, because they're of such a high vibrational state that they're not willing to mess around with the timeline. They wish to be almost like passive assistance rather than being a direct assistance. when we look at the ones that are kind of neutral, where they have some that are good and some that are bad, you can look at beings like the mantis beings. You can also look at things like the Greys. A lot of the Greys get a bad rap, and I get that. But some of my favorite beings that I've met have been Greys because they have shown me a tremendous amount of empathy, playfulness, and understanding. I found the Arcturians, in my experience, have predominantly been really good. I have not had good experiences with the shadow beings or the Djinn. I met one Sasquatch being who was working alongside reptilians who did not seem pleased to be there. It acted towards me with neutrality, as though it had no connection to me, although it did seem to almost convey in its energy a degree of empathy towards me, which is all right. Flower beings and mushroom beings were absolutely lovely. The Lyran beings that I've encountered, which are predominantly with one of my children, they've been absolutely wonderful. I don't see them often because they don't need to interact with me. They tend to interact more with my child. The majority of hybrids that I've encountered, for the most part, they seem a little more neutral than anything. They don't go out of their way to do a lot for people. I have had one come forward to help heal me when I was sick with bronchitis. She was absolutely wonderful, but a lot of the other hybrids I've met in more of a teaching capacity or more of a, almost like they'll encounter me when they're on craft and they'll just be talking to me and interacting with me rather than necessarily giving me, like, most of them don't give healing or guidance, but a lot of them just want to have that interaction, and a lot of the hybrids I've met are my children, so it's more of me interacting with them and me trying to help them understand human culture and human energy, and that's okay. The humanoid beings, when we start going into that aspect, they get a little bit more complicated. The majority of the humanoid beings I've met I've actually been really fond of, including the Palladians, a lot of my soul family. They were the ones that taught me energy, about the colors of energy, the density of energy, the manipulation of energy, how to use it. They were the ones who were introducing me to psychic abilities and helping me to understand the communication on more of a, it's almost like more of a heartfelt communication, not just the telepathic communication, so more of the empathic and clairsentient understanding beyond just the telepathic understanding that we have when we're on craft, teaching more of a rounded understanding of how energy works, which is fantastic. I have met a couple humanoid beings, one that was Palladian who was not actually good. It was more of a, how can I explain this? I did see him give information about how to sabotage these other humanoid beings that were having a meeting and allowing in some very dark and negative beings. So there's that aspect of it too. And it's a little bit frustrating when you start to see that coming forward. I had thought up until that point that they were all good, and the beings that I work with allowed me to start having some not as kind encounters to help show me more of the diversity of beings out there. The reptilians are probably the most complicated group that I've encountered yet. When I look at some of the reptilians, and I'd like to go through a few different types of them. First of all, I'd like to talk about the gray reptilians that I've encountered. They're one of the first reptilians that I recall meeting. They were actually very civil towards me. They portrayed themselves as being human for my comfort. They were very polite, very to the point. They had a very lovely home. This was an astral encounter to the best of my knowledge, but when I saw them, I did feel like this was in the United States they had taken me to, and it felt like it was more of a California type energy, and it was a very beautiful, modern type living space, more minimally furnished, not as cluttered as a lot of the humans would keep it. But that's something I've noticed about almost all the ETs, is a lot of them tend to be more minimalist, which I find quite fascinating. I've only met one that collected human things, but we'll get into that later. When I look at the green reptilians that I've met, I am not fond of these ones at all. I've only met them a few times, and every time I've met these guys, they have been very volatile towards me. It's always been in a very dangerous situation. When I was lucky enough to have the memory come forward of how I came to be on this planet, I was shown them attacking us and eventually eating us, which was a very anxiety-filled experience. I have met beings that I would consider to be Nagas because that was how they expressed themselves. They were quite interesting in the sense that when I say Nagas, I'm actually talking about these beings who had very snake-like, serpenty-type tails and having multiple, almost like snake-like bodies coming up from one stem or one tail. And they were very educational. They did pass a book to me and shared some information. I would say they were highly respectful. I did bow when I left them because I felt they were very honor-based culture, very polite, very formal, and I really enjoyed meeting them. When I look at beings like the black reptilians, typically the black reptilians that I've met, all the ones that I recall of this race have always been male for the ones that I've encountered, the majority of which have been under more of a military type capacity. The black reptilian that I've seen the most frequently, he's come into my home on a physical level when I had bronchitis before that, like right after that hybrid, came in to give me a healing when I had bronchitis a couple years ago. He's also been the one who's taken me to meetings where they've discussed harvesting and what they are and are not allowed to take off of this planet. I've also seen the black reptilians when it comes to the educating and training of hybrid youth. So boys and girls that are around the age, I'd say somewhere between 6 and 10, if I'm not mistaken, going off the top of my head. It was a small group, maybe 10, 20 kids in a classroom with 2 reptilians that had energy swirling around them. So the children were seeing them as instructors, and in actuality, these were reptilians directing the class. They were very upright, quite muscular. I would say they weren't necessarily good or bad. It seemed like they were self-serving, which is fine. I've met a yellow reptilian, and he was very chaotic. He had, one second, sorry. I'm speaking so much, my throat's cleaning. 1 second.
That's all right. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got about 4 minutes left with you tonight, Samantha.
Perfect. I'll go fast. The yellow reptilian that I've met, he had a diminished sense of intelligence. He was very much a meat eater. He was chasing myself and children while I was astral projecting, and I didn't like him. I have met a couple brown reptilians too. They were okay. I've met raptors. I'm actually quite fond of the raptors that I've met. They are by far my favorite reptilians that I've encountered. Typically, the ones I've met are female. When I met them when I was younger, they were not as kind to me. However, now it's more of a degree of respect that they are showing. I've met them in reference to my hybridization and my fertility. And you know what? I honestly have a lot of good things to say about them because they were respectful, they were courteous. Although you could tell by looking at them, they're very intelligent. When I was younger, they kind of chased us a lot during our astral projections. And I don't necessarily think it was in the kindest of manner, but I feel as though their agenda has changed, or what it is they were striving to do has really shifted in the last 10, 20 years. So I'm grateful that there's been this shift with them. There's a lot more beings we can go into. These are just the ones off the top of my head. Even the mantis beings, you can break them down to different colors. And going through that, there's just so much going on within the extraterrestrial multidimensional community. I really want for your listeners to start shifting their vibrations so that they can meet these beings too. I think they would be quite happy with the information they can learn on their own. I really do. What else would you like to talk about, Dave, in the last couple minutes?
Well, you know, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and I do have to say this. I am so glad that you are feeling better with yourself and what has been happening, because I think it's important for you to get back in the saddle and get back talking about these messages that you need to, and you know that anytime you want to come on this show, you have a home here.
Thank you. That's really sweet. And I'm so glad we have this friendship and that we can do that. That's awesome.
It is kind of awesome. And you know what? I got a little bit of pull with the producer as well. So it's all good.
Perfect.
We can make that happen. But I'm very excited to see you on Monday as we will be hanging out. We'll be filming a little bit of a documentary interview about the experience that you and I had together back on April 15th, 2014. I'm very excited to see you. I haven't seen you in a number of months, and to be able to connect with you again is going to be absolutely fantastic.
I agree. I can't wait, and I can't wait to see Mrs. SOR. That'll be wonderful.
I know, and I can't wait to see everybody you're bringing as well. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun, including your dogs, including them.
They are pretty awesome.
They definitely
They're pretty
are.
great.
Do me a favor. Let everybody know out there how they can find your videos, your website. How can they get a hold of you?
So please don't contact me through my website. Either email me directly at samanthamowat@live.com, or better yet, send me a text message, because I've recently found out that I have 600 plus emails to respond to. My website was not syncing with my email, and I hadn't updated my website in about 6 months. So I have a lot of emails to catch up on, and if you email me through there, it's going to take me probably 6 months to get back to you, which I don't mean to. Check me out on YouTube. You can type in Samantha Mowat, and all the videos should be me. There's not a lot else that comes up under Samantha Mowat. There's a few others. My website is pretty relaxing. It's a lot of pinks and purples, but I need to update it again. One thing, if you enjoyed tonight's talk, you might enjoy checking out the Bases Project and Samantha Mowat. Miles Johnson and I did, I think, 8 interviews that should be, it was pretty fun. So that should help to give you more information.
Samantha, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We'll do it again soon. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. We'll be back.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rockin'. Get your party on at the Moose, Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today. Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have you around this evening. Reminder to all of you, if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, more coming as well. So all you got to do is read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, listen to the show live, and you will be in tune with what we are doing. Speaking of the news, let's get to it. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the head-scratchers that we just need to share with you. Let's start off in Hawaii, where Aquaman star Jason Momoa visited native Hawaiian protesters blocking the construction of a giant telescope on Hawaii's tallest mountain. The native Hawaiian Hollywood actor wore a green leaf lei around his neck and the crown on his head as he attended a ceremony at the protest site. Honolulu television stations live streamed dancers in jeans and windbreakers performing hula in chilly weather. What's chilly weather in Hawaii? I would like to know this. Momoa stooped low to present an offering wrapped in green tea leaves. He said he was honored to be there, drawing cheers after saying, "We are not going anywhere." Protesters have blocked the road to the summit for 17 days. Some native Hawaiians believe Mauna Lea's summit is sacred. The summit also has the best conditions for astronomy in the northern hemisphere. Staff from existing telescopes on the summit, meanwhile, traveled up the mountain in 7 vehicles to secure their facilities as 2 storms approached. The observatories negotiated access through law enforcement, and some staff moved telescope domes away from the direction of prevailing winds. Others disabled systems so they won't get as damaged if there is a prolonged power outage. Moving on, and in space, NASA announced that it's transiting exoplanet survey satellite, otherwise known as TESS, has uncovered a potentially habitable planet just 31 light years away from our solar system. So about the same time it takes to get from one side of LA to the other. Why it matters, TESS member and associate professor of astronomy Lisa Kaltenegger, who led the international team and who is also the director of Cornell's Carl Sagan Institute, said in a statement, the discovery of the exoplanet named GJ357d, well, that's a romantic name, is humanity's first nearby super-Earth that could harbor life. The big picture sees astronomers from the Institute of Astrophysics of the Canary Islands and the University of La Laguna, Spain, publish the findings of the planet system. GJ357. That just doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Yeah, well, they put to their findings in the Journal of Astronomy and Astrophysics, and they were presented as an exoplanet conference in Massachusetts. The astronomers detected via TESS another planet orbiting the same star named GJ357, and deeper research by Spanish astronomers led to the discovery of 2 more planet systems. The other 2 known planets in the star system are B and C, are believed to be far too hot to be habitable, according to Kaltenegger. So what's next for the scientists? Said a pair of next-generation telescopes in Chile should reveal more details once operating in 2025 about the super-Earth, including whether it's rocky or has oceans. And I bet you there's Leaf fans there, too. Yeah, the Maple Leaf fans, they're everywhere. Down in Australia, an Australian crocodile farmer who found an orthopedic plate inside a croc's stomach said Thursday that he had been told the surgical device was from a person's body and had been contacted by relatives of missing people anxious for clues. Corana crocodile farm owner John Lever found the plate inside a 4.7 meter or 15-foot 5-inch croc called MJ during an autopsy in June at his business near Rockhampton. He initially wasn't sure if the unusual find had been a part of an animal or a human, but he said since making photos of the plate public, he has been told it's a type used in human surgery. Lever estimated that MJ, who was 50 to 70 years old when he died, MJ could have eaten a bone that the plate had been attached to by 6 screws some 50 years ago. All remnants of human tissue attached to the plate had been long digested before MJ died several months after losing a fight with another croc. Lever later said that Queensland police had told him they had opened a missing person investigation and asked him to bring the plate to the Rockhampton station Friday. A police spokesman said they could not comment on this, though. Lever is continuing to make inquiries in the hopes of discovering what decade the type of plate was used and perhaps who it belonged to. I wouldn't call it an investigation, he says. We're making inquiries because we're fascinated by this whole thing. Obviously, the croc has chomped on something, and that plate has been left in its stomach, complete with screws. Right, so it was a man-eater. Let's just call it what it is. The croc was a man-eater. Yeah, he goes on to say, we've had a couple people get in touch with us about their relatives that have gone missing in North Queensland area and their action to find out. There's been nothing heard of these people. They just disappeared. We'll certainly keep these people informed of any news we could get. Well, there's no DNA on the thing. How are they going to prove it? I guess they go through surgical records? It's kind of weird. Looks like something the TTSA would call metamaterials. Here's a sad story. Firefighters have tackled another blaze at a ruined former home of notorious occultist Aleister Crowley. Boleskine House, overlooking the Loch Ness, was badly damaged by a blaze in 2015, and the ruin was sold earlier this year. Crowley was said to have performed occultist rituals at the property where he lived between 1899 and 1913. The B-list Georgian building was later owned by musician Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service said the alarm was raised shortly before 4 o'clock on Wednesday and 2 appliances were sent to the property. Police Scotland said it's believed the fire was started deliberately and has appealed for witnesses. Crews tackled separate blazes at the Boleskine House and the neighboring Coach House. The Friends of Boleskine House later posted on their Facebook page that the Coach House had been saved, but what was left of the roof of the Boleskine House had collapsed. Crowley, who died in 1947, was infamous in the late 19th century and early 20th century for his promotion of the occult. During World War I, he wrote anti-British propaganda. He was also an experienced climber and was part of an ill-fated attempt to scale K2 in modern-day Pakistan in 1902. Jimmy Page bought the house in the 70s because of the Crowley connection before later selling it. Police and fire services have started an investigation into what caused this blaze. So you take the family out to one of them wave pools. And, sometimes those waves, pretty fun. Sit on an inner tube and you just kind of ride the waves. Well, a malfunctioning wave machine injured 44 people at a water park in northeastern China this past weekend. Instead of a gentle wave, the machine started sending a tsunami at the Xiun Water Park in Longjing, China. It generated one that hurled swimmers into each other and right out of the pool. Oh, you got to see the video for this. This is pretty phenomenal. Video of the incident shows swimmers enjoying themselves in the wave pool, laughing, cheering, doing all the things you do in a pool before suddenly the tsunami came. According to the initial stages of the investigation, oh, this is awesome. Some of these pictures, you see like literally people with their arms and legs spread out flying through the air. Anyways, the incident was caused by a power cut that damaged electronic equipment in the tsunami pool control room, which led to the waves in the tsunami pool becoming too big and injuring people. 5 people were still being treated in hospital, some with fractured ribs. A spokesperson for the park blamed the freak wave on a mechanical fault, adding that the attraction was closed for a day for repairs and will be open again this weekend. He added that just 10 people had been hurt, contradicting the higher number given by officials. Of course, communist country contradicting numbers, isn't that just a given? Online rumors said that a worker wrongly operated the controls, but in reality it was a problem with the equipment. The park closed for the repairs, but the investigation is over and the park will reopen as usual. I want to go there. All right, America. When you come to Canada, we have a lot of wildlife up here, okay? A lot of wildlife, especially in the tourist areas. Nothing is safe. So there's this lady from Colorado. Her name is Sherry Moore. She decided to take a vacation up at Whistler. Okay, now Whistler is gorgeous. Doesn't matter if it's wintertime or if it's in the summer. I've been there both times. It is gorgeous. Now, she decides to go for a little run because it's so beautiful and picturesque. Well, the problem was there was a black bear who took very keenly to her. decided to go for a run with her. Moore said she was on a popular trail about 5 p.m. when she stopped to snap a selfie in the picturesque landscape. I literally took this dumb selfie of myself because I saw these boulders and thought of being at home, like, oh, it's just like I'm at home climbing one of the 14ers or something. And then right as I take the picture, she says, this bear jumps down onto the trail. Yeah, Moore said she started taking the video of the bear and the animal charged at her. Well, that's kind of what they do. I thought, this is it. I'm about to be mauled by a bear. It stood on 2 legs and puffed and chomped its teeth in my face. Moore said she feared fleeing would only make the bear more likely to attack, so she stood her ground and affected an intimidating tone. I was just like, no, get back, no, get down. I screamed at it and went back on all fours and walked away. Now, obviously, she didn't follow the directions from the lady in Duncan, British Columbia, which is about 100 kilometers away or 62 miles, maybe a little further, who used Metallica's Don't Tread on Me to scare the cougar away. Okay, maybe it only works for cougars. I don't know, but you should always be prepared with bear spray and Metallica when you're about to encounter wild animals or going into the forest. Now, she also should have done her homework because a few years ago, in downtown Whistler, a black bear decided to enter the pizza parlor and help himself to a few slices. That stuff happens there. So this isn't really out of the ordinary. All right, let's get real woo here. More like strange. Eamon Holmes gave the bride away. The groom, a golden retriever, wore a top hat. Love Island's Kem Satani acted as the ring bearer. As a woman married her dog in the UK. What the hell is this? Seriously. It played out live like a David Lynch fever dream. One viewer called it deeply uncomfortable viewing. There has to be a law against marrying your dog, tweeted another. There is, actually. The only legal marriage is between 2 humans, but there were a few giveaways that this was not a solemn occasion. Alison Hammond, officiating, struggled to keep it together as she called for those present to voice any bones of contention as to why Elizabeth Mary Frances Hode and 6-year-old Logan Humphrey the second should not be wed. No one said the obvious. How long have you got? But Logan did offer a Tim from the Office style haunted look into the camera. Who marries their dog? Apparently this 49-year-old lady. Too many cats, probably, in her life before the dog. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't even know where to go with this. I mean, just talking about this makes me uncomfortable. I hope they didn't consummate the marriage, if you know what I'm saying, as grotesque as that is. Okay? Does she identify as a dog? Because she's a pretty attractive lady. I don't know. I really don't know. Don't know where to go with that one. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. In your opinion, who are the top women in UFO research and why? All right, let's check it out. Linda Moulton Howe, according to K28, has almost 40 years of research and can recall from her vast memory details of all of her interviews and on-site analysis for any question asked of her relating to her research. John, I think it's more telling that you didn't ask for a top 5 or 10. Why? Why? Puxley, the late Carla Turner was my favorite, he says. David, Linda Moulton Howe, Paula Harris, Chase Klodsky, Mary Rodwell, Kathleen Martin, Barbara Lamb, because all of the rest seem prone to fantasy, disinformation, or woo. You might want to check out Barbara Lamb, Kathleen Martin, Mary Rodwell, Chase Klodsky, Paula Harris, and Linda Moulton Howe again there, David. Just saying. Alcyon just posted this on another thread, but she deserves kudos. Teresa Tyndall at Captain Space Pirate because of her experience, approach, and dedication to the field. Erica Lukes is said by a number of people. She'll be on the show again very, very soon. Probably in September. We love her around here. All right. More, shall we? Let's get to it. Once again, Linda Moulton Howe from JA. She seems unbiased and goes to great lengths to get valid information. Sparky believes it's Linda Moulton Howe as well. She has dedicated her life to research. She is extremely intelligent and sincere. Her website, earthfiles.com, is excellent consistently. We have heard several of the mysterious booms in the city that I live in. Police, fire, etc. had no explanation. I suggest to the editor of our local paper to contact Linda. She personally returned the call. Brandon believes Linda Moulton Howe, same as Heidi, but goes without saying, but also Erica Lukes, who worked with Hesdelin, and unfaltering work on Utah Skinwalker Ranch sightings is unparalleled. Time for you to have her back on, please, Dave. Okay, I will. I totally will. Just for you. Zion. Ufology is mostly a man's world, just like the rest of the planet. The only woman I have heard about in ufology that I believe is a credible researcher is Linda Moulton Howe. Oh, there are so many more. So many more. Jeanette, pardon me. Prior to the release of my book in September, I'm releasing a picture of an interdimensional ultra-terrestrial being that will be in my book without an explanation of the experiment done, or with an explanation of the experiment done in which it has been written in the book. How many times can she say book? You think she's trying to promote her book here for a second? Jeanette, do you have a book written? Do you? Curious. Tim, Moulton Howe, hands down. Catherine Coleman Goebel Johnson is an American mathematician whose calculations of orbital mechanics as a NASA employee were critical to the success of the first and subsequent U.S. crewed spacecraft. Brilliant lady. She really helped on the Apollo missions, too, I believe. Don't think she was into ufology, though. Cheryl Costa. I love that she digs into current, relevant, and important data, 100%. Also, shout out to my fellow ladies who are out in the field every week looking up, observing, and interacting with the phenomena. More Linda Moulton Howe. More for Dr. Irina Scott. Corrine, maybe the best answer of the night. Sure as F ain't me. And on that note, we're going to wrap things up here. Big thanks to everybody taking part. I do have to give a shout out for the ladies in ufology. I'm thinking Lorian Fenton. I'm thinking Melinda Leslie. I'm thinking, who many? Samantha Mowat. Geraldine Orozco. So many. They deserve more play. That is for sure. We'll do the thought of the day again tomorrow. Yeah. We'll put a question up on our Facebook and Twitter pages because it's woo time tomorrow. We're going to continue the woo big time. I know the crowd on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio will like that. You guys better get prepared over there. Better get prepared. Big thanks to Captain Shirk for putting our news together for the SOR News Wire as well, which can be found at spacedoutradio.com. And big thanks to Samantha Mowat. SamanthaMowat.ca is her website for coming on the show. We'll have her on soon again. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, in your cars, at work, in our chat rooms on Spreaker, the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook, Revolution Radio, and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, wherever you may be. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited.
I know you're out there.
want to give a shout out to each and every one of you and say thank you for sharing your evening with us. Because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.